Hello and welcome back to another web development video. My name is Jesus Guzman from GDev Tech, and today I will walk you guys through setting up tasks for Gulp. In our previous video, we've already set up and downloaded modules, also known as dependencies for Gulp. So if you haven't seen that video, go ahead and jump back one video and review that. Then come back and watch this video. Let's go ahead and get started on creating some tasks for Gulp. Alright, so we're gonna start off where we left off in our previous video. I'm just gonna go ahead and type in CLS to kind of clear all this out here. And here we can see that we've already required our main Gulp and our node modules in here. So first, let me just go ahead and kind of clean these up here just by hitting tab a few times, just to kind of keep things a little bit organized and more visually, you can see things clearly and a lot better. So let me just tab all these out. And now, the next thing what we're going to go ahead and do is we're just going to begin by compiling our stylist. I'm going to go and do this in the node module orders. So we're going to compile our stylist by typing in Gulp, and we're going to use dot notation. So we're going to do dot and put in a task function, and within this task function it has parameters. The first parameter is going to be your name of the task, which we're going to go ahead and put in stylist. So we'll just paste that in there, and then we're going to separate that with a comma, and the second parameter could be an array or a function. And here we'll just go ahead and type in an anonymous function, is what it's called. So we'll just type that in, wrap that around the curly brackets, and close that out with the semicolon. Now within our Gulp task compiler here to compile stylist, we're going to go ahead and type in return, and then after return we're going to do a gulp dot source and put that in the function, and within this function it has a parameter of the file directory. So what we want to go ahead and look for is the main.stylist. So we'll just go into our assets CSS / main.style. And what this is going to do, this is telling it to do, is capture the main.style folder. That's plain and simple. So that's that main page there. That's going to have all of our stylists. Now what I'm doing here is I'm doing a pipe, and a pipe is saying, okay, do this, kind of like this is the next step, this is the next process. That's the easiest and simplest way I can explain a pipe. So we're going to do dot pipe, and what's the next is we're going to run the stylist function, and then we're going to run in another pipe with the gulp.destination function. And the destination is saying, okay, once I run my stylist, where do you want me to place this file in? And we're going to place it within our assets CSS. Let me go ahead and wrap that around single quotes here. And this is by default going to be running in main.css. So that's what we expect it to output, main.css. And here, Gulp also has a default task, so we got to make sure we create that. So I'm just gonna go ahead and create this default task by doing gulp dot task, and then we're gonna run it in a function, and within this function it's just gonna have a name which is gonna be default, and like I said before, has parameters, and this parameter we're going to use an array. An array is just those square brackets. So we're just going to go ahead and type in an array, and the first one, it's going to be named stylist. So this Gulp task default, all I would have to do to run this is just by typing in Gulp, and it's immediately going to run whatever is in this array. So all the functions that are in this array, it's going to go ahead and run. And I'll demonstrate this for you guys right now. So if I go ahead and type in, and let me kind of close these out here a little bit. There we go. So now we have our main.style right here, and our output should be main.css when I run this function. So keep an eye out for that. So what I did is just created a new little command line there. So I'm just going to type in gulp. That's it. That's running that gulp default task. So once I run gulp, it's going to run stylist because that's the only thing within the array, and we have our output, which is main.css, and that's what we wanted. So we know that this task ran successfully and it output the CSS. So now there's nothing within our main, so we have only settings in here. So if we go into global settings, we can see that there's nothing there. But now if I go ahead and type within our settings.style, let me kind of put two windows here so you guys can actually see, and minify my command line, exit there. So now in our settings.stylist, I'll just go ahead and type in h1, target our header one, and then I'll put in a color, and this color will just put red. And now if I open my command line again and I type in gulp one more time, you can see that it starts compiling, and it compiles into a regular.css file. So you can see we have our curly brackets and our semicolon to close the color tag there, and everything's working perfectly fine. So that's good. And if I change the color to pink and I run gulp one more time just for verification, you can see that the color changes to pink when I do run it here. So we'll just run it with gulp.stylist. So we can also do this. We can also target a task directly by doing gulp and then the task name. So if I do gulp stylist, it does the same thing. So remember, when we run gulp by itself, it's going to run whatever tasks are in that array within the gulp file. Or you can run the tasks individually by typing in gulp and the task name. Hopefully that makes sense. If not, leave a question in the comments below. Now what I want to go ahead and do is create another task, and for this task we're going to go ahead and compile Pug, or also known as Jade. And in my Jade video I kind of explain that the .jade is no longer in existence, so we had to rename all of our .jade files into .pug, and in this video you are going to see the .jade files here, which you can see this is where I came up with this issue. So first I created a gulp task, I put in my task name, which is pug, I run an anonymous function with my return statement here, and the gulp.source, and you guys can see kind of a repetition going on here. We begin by creating a gulp task, the task name, an anonymous function, and we do a return with a source. So we're going to go ahead and target our source, where is our view, and the index.jade is the one that we're going to target. So views index.jade, and that's our main source file that we will be targeting. And what we're going to do is run another pipe, and within this pipe is where we're going to go ahead and put in the location of where we will basically find that, where we will output our index.html file. And what I did is I just did a quick search on the npm package manager for Pug, and that's where I found that error where they renamed all files to .pug. So it's no longer .jade, renaming it here, but if you watch my Jade file, you already knew to rename those files. If this is your first time watching it, I definitely recommend you starting off in our our Jade file or our Jade video, so you can kind of stay up to date on what happened there. But if not, just keep watching this video and you can see that I did make those changes from .jade to .pug. So now if I do a pipe and I run in my pug function, and then I do another pipe, and then I say where do I want this to output, and our destination on where I want this to output, which is our index.html, it's going to be in our main root directory. And the reason being is because every root directory or your website has to have either an index.html or an index.php. So I do this by doing a dot and /, and that's basically saying put this file in our root directory. As you can see, I also created I put in the pug task within my default task array. So now if I go ahead and take a look here, we can see that I have my splash page, my head pug. So all this should be converted into HTML when I run my pug task. So once I run my pug task, I should be able to see my header, my footer, and the splash page. And right here, I'll just create a HTML basic footer here. So I'll create a paragraph, and I'll go ahead and put in footer, copyright, and that's it. Yeah, footer copyright. That should do it there. So now if I run my function and I open up my terminal first, then I can go ahead and run my function, and I'll run just the default. So I'll just go ahead and run gulp, and I'll hit enter. Actually, let's just type in just that task. So gulp pug, and it should be running that task, and we should have index.html on our root, and we do not have it. I'm looking in my views directory and I do not see it there, and the reason is because I did not rename the return statement in my gulp file. So the index.jade should actually be index.pug. So now if I go ahead and run it, so now if I go ahead and type in gulp pug, hit enter, now we should have our index.html in our root, and there it is. It just popped up here. So if I go ahead and open it, we have our HTML file, and it looks like it works. So all of our HTML file, the only thing is that it doesn't look good. So pug has this function where you can kind of make it more pretty and more readable. So we're going to go ahead and do that by wrapping it around in the mustache brackets, and I'm just going to do pretty as a value or as a key, and then the value is going to be true since that's a boolean. So we're going to say we want this to output nicely. So I'll keep it on this page, and if I run the function again, boom, everything looks nicely organized, and we can see all of our tags easily. So this is very cool. This is very interesting. We see that our title tag, our meta, our style sheets, our JS, out of our head tag is included there. We have our body. Even though we have separate files for all of this, it combined it all together. Now, one thing here within our body tag, if we look a little bit closely towards the bottom, we can see that we have two closing HTML tags. So if I go ahead and zoom that in, you see two HTML tags that are closing. So the reason for this is because I forgot to remove that HTML at the end of that. So I'll just erase that, save it, and now if I run my gulp pug task again, that should remove it, and it did. So now we have a very, very good HTML template that was created from pug into HTML. So that's very interesting, very exciting there. So if we go back into our gulp file, the next thing to go ahead and create is our concatenation minify. So we're going to go ahead and run our concatenate and minify task here, and I'm just going to go ahead and create that by doing gulp.task with the function. And again, we're going to go ahead and type in the name that we want to go ahead and type in, which in this case I'm just going to do scripts because we're going to be only concatenate and minify JavaScripts. So I'll just type in scripts, put in my anonymous function, and then we got to make sure we close it with a semicolon. Then within here we do a return gulp.source, and we're going to target our JavaScript file. So we go back into our assets, and within our assets I'll just go to JS main.js. So let me do a pipe, and before I do that, let me just go ahead and wrap my source into an array, which is just the square brackets, and this is just in case we have other JavaScript files that we want to go ahead and concatenate and minify, but in this case we'll probably just use that one. So right here what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say pipe concatenate master.js here. So this is concatenating. So once we located our gulp source, then we're going to go ahead and concatenate master.js. And then the next step after concatenating master.js is we're going to do a gulp destination, and I'm going to move that destination over into our root of our JS directory. So I'll do assets.js, and we're going to place that master.js in that directory. Then the next step, which is the next pipe that we're going to do, is a rename, and this rename we will call it master.min.js. So after that, then we're going to go ahead and uglify it. And within this uglify function that I'm going to go ahead and place here, this uglify function will go ahead and minify the master.min.js file that was created. Once I go ahead and do that, we do another pipe with the destination on where we want to place that minify file. And where we want to place it is in our JS root directory. So assets/JS, and we cannot forget to also place that within our default task. So we're just going to type in scripts for our scripts task. So if we open our main.js file, I'll just create a simple variable called name, and I'll just put in my first and last name, Jesus Guzman, in there. And then I'll go ahead and do another variable, we'll call it site, and then we will console log that. So it's going to output hello, my name is, and then the name, which is Jesus Guzman. I'll do another concatenation, and single quotes I'll do, and you can visit me at concatenate site. So that's what those +s stand for. This is not a JavaScript course. I won't get into JavaScript into this video. This is just simple console log that will output and the inspector of your web browser. So that's what it shows now. That's what we can see, and we can see that everything has a line to it. But now if I run my gulp scripts task, then what's going to happen is our master is going to show up, and our master.min should show up as well. So let's see if it works, and let's see, it's still running. make sure I have everything there. There we go. Okay, so now we have our master.js, and if we go into our master.js, we have that file, so we can see that worked, but it did not minify our file. And that's why, because we named it, we didn't name it uglify, we named it minify. Even though we're using a gulp function, uglify, or gulp node module called uglify, I named it to minify. So now it's gonna minify that file. So now if we do gulp scripts again, we still have our masters, but now we have our masters.min. So main.js, everything looks good. We just basically copied that and compiled it into our master.js, and our master.js, we grabbed whatever's in our master.js and we minified it into master.min.js, and that's why everything's all in a single line. It just compresses everything all in a single line. That's what minification does. So hopefully that all makes sense. Again, leave me a message. I'm more than happy to help you guys out or answer any questions if there's any confusion with this. But basically what it's doing, it's just creating a new file called master.js. It's putting it within our JS folder. Then it's renaming it into master.min.js. And then we minify that master.min.js. And we output it back into the JS directory. To keep these things simple, what I want to go ahead and do is I'll make main.js into my lib directory. And within my lib directory, that's where I can go ahead and put in all my JavaScript files. So like jQuery can go there. Other JavaScript libraries can go there. And that way when I run my gulp scripts, everything gets minified and put into our master.js file. So the same outcome is going to happen. So now if I run that gulp scripts, we have our master.js and our master.min. So everything within our lib file, it's going to just be any JavaScript libraries out there that we just want to copy and then paste over into our site. We're going to put it into our lib directory. That kind of cleans it up a little bit for us. So that was a lot to take in. Like I said, leave any questions. If you guys have any, more than happy to answer that. But the next task that we're going to go ahead and create is we're going to watch for these files. So all this is doing is just watching it. So instead of me always creating a gulp or typing in gulp and then the task name or just gulp every time to run it, we're actually going to create a new task that it's a part of gulp, and it's called watch. So we're just going to do gulp.task. Task name is going to be watch with an anonymous function, and this watch task is just going to keep running in the background and watch for any changes that we do. And once it sees that a change has been done, then it's going to run this task, and it's going to run all of our other tasks that's within our watch task. This will make sense in just a little bit here. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to be watching for all my stylists. So any stylist that gets created or any stylist that gets changed, I want this program to watch for that. And then when something does change within our stylist files, then I want it to update and run our stylist function, or our stylist task is what's going to happen. So I will go and put all of our stylist directories in here, which is our main.stylist, and then our components, and I'll do a star at the end of that components, basically saying anything within components, that's where we're going to go ahead and also watch for. So anything within components, that's what we're going to watch for. So we're just going to do that for global and modules. And we're going to do the same thing for pages. And we're also going to watch our pug files. So we're going to do view, layout, partials, and asterisks again. And then we're finally going to go ahead and do another array that is just called stylists. And then we're also going to call another that's pug. So basically, any changes that watches, I want you to go ahead and run stylist or run pug task if you find any of these changes. And we have stylist, we have pug, and I think that's the only thing there. Don't forget, I forgot that comma on that after components and the asterisk. So now if I do a gulp watch task, so if I do a gulp watch task, it's going to be watching for any files that have changed in here. So let's go ahead and take a look, and you can see that it's starting and it's finished. So this is not going to go away. So now if I make a change into one of these directories, so let's go ahead and actually do the import of components, and we'll import those borders and button components there. And then we'll do the same thing for modules and the same thing for pages. So I can go ahead and just save that. And once I save that, I'll open up my HTML file, and let me just bring that over here, and I'll open my index. And okay, so we have that those pink letters there. So now actually let me go ahead and move this screen to the side here, and let's decrease this font size. There we go. Okay, so now anytime I make this change and I refresh my browser on the right, then we should see that change take place. So let me go into my splash.pug. So now if I go ahead and, okay, let me look at my image. So we have a header and then image tag. So let me go into my home.stylist, since that's the only page, and I'm going to do a target of my header tag. And then within my header tag, I'm going to target the image, and I'm going to want to decrease the size of the image. So we're just going to do max width of max width would be a good size for this. 150. Let's try 150, which I think it's going to be way too small. So let me go ahead and just save that and refresh it. And it didn't take place. So I did something wrong. That's what that tells me, because there's no changes that were made. So I did something wrong. Let me go ahead and jump back here and let me see. Let me go ahead and just end these in .stylist and see if that fixes that. So I'm just going to put end.stylist, and I'll do the same thing for our pug files. So now let me go ahead and run this one more time, and let me just take a look. So now if I refresh my page, so now we have 150. Okay, so now that ran, and that ran because I had to rerun it. So let me make sure if it does work by changing that number to 250, which I think should be a good size. So now if I save it, I I still don't see nothing happening in the terminal, and the main.css file hasn't changed. And I see the issue. So we have our assets.css/modules. We can see that it's there twice when we actually need to go ahead and just have that second modules needs to be pages. So that's my bad there. I messed up there. I just copied and pasted without renaming the modules to pages. So now third time is a charm here, and run it. So again, now that I ran it, it compiled everything already, so it's automatically going to come out into the 250 that I saved it as. So if we go here, save it again, 250, boom, save. Great. Now if I change it to back to 150, save it, main.css also compiled it to 150. So that's working. Our stylist is working. Everything is being watched. Everything is going as planned. Now let me change the color to my H1 just to double check, make sure everything looks good. So if I change this to black, and you can see with stylist, really you don't need like semicolon, right? You can kind of leave it blank, but I like putting in not semicolon but just a colon there, and it'll still work. So everything looks like it's compiling within stylist. There's no issues. After the third time it works. Sometimes this can be a little bit frustrating, especially for new developers that are trying to get into the front-end developer field, where we kind of get frustrated. So I mean, even I make mistakes sometimes and I forget. So don't beat yourself up for it. Just keep reviewing these issues, keep going back and forth, make sure you have all your files renamed that you need to have renamed. So now what I would like to go ahead and do is watch all of my JavaScript files as well. So we're going to do the same thing that we did for our pug files and our stylist files, and we're just going to do just another watch in there. Target our assets.js folder and scripts. Wrap this in an array just in case if there's other JS files or other tasks for scripts that we need, then we can just put it within that array. So now we want to go ahead and paste that watch into our task as well. So when we just type in gulp, it watches, it runs through the process, stylist, pug, scripts, and then it watches for our files. So now what I want to go ahead and do is, this is great, it's watching our files, but instead of me going back and forth on refreshing the page, I want to go ahead and create this new task that's called browser sync. And browser sync is going to enable us to not have to refresh the page, but the page itself to refresh anytime there is a change that occurs. So this is going to make us developers more efficient, more productive in our code, so we don't always have to go back and forth on refreshing the page. So what I'm going to do is create a browser sync function, and within that function, go ahead and create a key that's called server, and then we're going to do another key within that key and create base.dir, and base.dir stands for base directory, and the base directory is going to be our main directory file that we want to target, which is our index.html. So I'm just going to go ahead and leave it at the root file. So what it's doing is anytime there's a change anywhere, so anytime there's a change within our assets, in our node modules, in our views, or Gulp, JS, anywhere, it's gonna refresh our browser anytime there's a change there. And again, we have to create a task for this, so we'll do gulp.task, and we'll call the task name sync, make it very simple, and we're going to do an array, and the array is going to contain our stylist, our pug, and our script, tasks. And we're also going to make sure that we do browser sync dot reload. Basically, that's telling it anytime there is a change within one of these Gulp tasks, then reload the page. And don't forget, we also have to add it in our default tasks array. So the sync has to be in our default task array as well. So now that we're done doing that, let's go ahead and kind of clean this up a little bit, and let's test this out. So let's go ahead and type in Gulp. If I can type in Gulp, there we go. And I'll just type in Gulp watch. And Gulp watch is gonna do our browser sync as well. So once I type in Gulp watch, we can see that it's watching our files. But another thing that's interesting is it created a URL basically. You can see http://localhost port 3001. So if I go to that location, let me do a side by side again, and you can see I got localhost 3000. So now I'm here. So essentially, when I make a change to my code, I should see my browser automatically refresh or make that change that I made live. So I don't have to refresh the page anymore. So let's go ahead and do that. And you'll see on the top right of the browser, it just went away. It goes on and off real quickly, but I'll let you know when it's connected to browser sync. So we're going to go ahead and make a single change here. And we're going to do a task that I forgot to do because we created a new task called sync, and we'll put it in our watch as well. So we just created that there. Okay, so now if we do Gulp watch, we can go ahead and take a look at our browser here, and let's see if it changes. So we got red, and now if I change that color to green and I hit Control S on my keyboard, it changes to green. This is without me having to go and hitting the refresh. So let's go ahead and change another one to red, and it automatically changes. Now if I go into my splash.pug and I change a sentence within here, essentially when I save it, that should show up. So if I do Control S, we got thank you, that showed up on our browser screen. So this makes it more efficient, easy for us to develop code, and this is kind of what makes our job a lot easier when we set up environments or development environments like this. So when we're creating a simple splash page and we have everything organized in folders that we understand and everything is commented, and all we have to do is do a Gulp watch, and we have everything live as we code, and as we're saving, we can see the changes live to kind of get a visual understanding of how the site is looking like. It's a very, very good benefit. So thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you guys do enjoy it. Hopefully there was no confusion that I caused. If there were, please let me know. Send me a message or leave a comment in the bottom with your question. More than happy to answer it for you or try to break it down more clearly. Please let me know. If you do enjoy my videos and want to support me, you can do that by hitting that like button or by hitting that subscribe button if you are not already a subscriber. So thank you guys so much for watching, and see y'all later.